It's awesome.
Amen.
That's amazing. Well, very cool. John, go ahead. John, were you going to
No,
share something? Or who was going to
I
share
No.
something?
was. I was.
Oh,
Right.
Mark, there you go. Go for it.
Yeah. So yeah, we're moving next month to New Hampshire to plant or replant a church that's 189 years old. Um, and so we're going to be replanting a church there.
Wow.
And so it's pretty exciting. There's about 40 people still in the church. And so we're going to be going there. New Hampshire is like the number one in the least churched areas in the country. And so we're excited to learn how to evangelize in New Hampshire and to reach there. My wife's family lives there, and so we're and they're not Christians, not believers, and so
Wow.
we're excited to have a new mission field and to to have a new ministry life there. So
Mm, that's amazing. Wow. Super
Wow.
cool. Super, super cool.
Mark, so
Mario,
when,
go ahead.
Mark, when do you actually move there?
we are moving the week after Easter.
Okay.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, let us know how we can support you, Mark. I know it's a big transition, so that's awesome. Mario, did you have a win you wanted to share?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to share about something that Pastor Ray had said the other couple weeks ago. Um, we've been kind of all in on the next initiative and kind of all
Oh, way to
all
go,
for it,
Brady.
really really going in, and I'm like really happy to be a part of it. But something that he had mentioned the other day was that when you Pastor, when you came to Sacramento, I believe that you had got mentored by Pastor Glenn Cole for about
Yep.
10 years. And that kind of resonated with me because that's where I grew up. I grew up at Capital Christian Center. And that, excuse me, I remember, I mean, I have memories from like very, very like vague memories, but like going to the nursery very early on when the church was over on Howe Avenue, and it was at the old Cadillac dealership on Howe Avenue um, before they moved to the Bradshaw location. I have two uncles who were roofers at that time. They had roofing companies, and they actually helped to roof the the Bradshaw building. I remember going in there and it being like kind of bare bones. It was really neat because um, Thrive Corbin and the that team had kind of mentioned their story of how Bayside, when Bayside started, they went in and they kind of saw the bare bones of the church and were able to pray over it from the time they were little kids. And like that was kind of the same thing that happened to me at Capitol. I remember going in there and seeing like the orchestra pit and just like everything was brand new. Like I watched the building get built and so it was just kind of like a full circle moment for me, which was pretty neat. Like just hearing that whole thing. So anyway, what happened was my dad passed away a little over 10 years ago. And a couple years before he passed away, he gave me something that was like tucked away for a while. And when Pastor had mentioned it, like it just kind of came back into my mind. So I started looking for it, started digging for it because it was like I was like really being prompted to to share it with you, Pastor, and to pass it on. And so I've been kind of I bought like a tape cassette recorder so that I could record this thing, but it's a series from Pastor Glenn Cole on the Ten Commandments. And it's pretty neat. Like it's a whole cassette, and it even has like the Howe Avenue. This is from like 1981 or something. It has the Howe Avenue dates on there. So I've been like recording the onto a USB and putting them on my computer, so I have the messages. And like I was kind of wrestling with it because like it was something my dad gave me. Um, but then I'm like, do I want to really part with this? And it means a lot. And then when I couldn't find it, when I was like looking for it and I couldn't even find it, I'm thinking to myself, like, this would probably do a lot better, in your possession than it is in mine. But never even listened to the messages. I'm actually going through them and listening to them as I'm recording them. And very, very, like, it just brings back so many memories from Pastor Cole and like growing up in church at that time. So at some point, I'm going to get this to you, Pastor Ray, and I want you to take it, and I'll have the MP3 version for you too, so you don't have to like pop it into a cassette player or anything. But if you
Oh,
even have one. I had to find one on Amazon. It's pretty cool. But anyway, I just wanted to share that and just wanted to say thank you for everything that you're doing with the church and the community.
hmm.
Mario, you just made my day. Thank you. And Glenn Cole, I always think it's great to have several mentors at the same time. Some of them you know, and some of them you don't know. Like I never met Henrietta Mears, but she's been one of the best mentors I've ever had because I've listened to everything she ever said and read everything she ever wrote. Um, and then guys like Glenn, you get to be influenced by him. I mean, he passed away 20 years ago, whatever it was, and and you still can listen to his voice. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And by the way, Valinsky and CJ and everybody don't don't remember the days when we had all those. We had that everything we did
That
sermons,
ministry.
bam, it is cassetted.
Yeah.
Everybody's grabbing those things afterwards. It was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Those were easier days in some ways to know
Right.
somebody got content. You know,
Yeah,
so
John still has a cassette and boombox, I think, right behind
I
him.
do actually do.
yep. So pretty cool. Yeah, he was the best.
That's awesome.
I'll get it to you as soon as I'm done. I'm like on Commandment 5 right now, and the first four like punch you in the gut pretty good. But yeah, it's like Pastor Cole, man, was that's who I grew up listening to, and Rick Cole, his son, officiated my dad's funeral, and a lot of
Wow.
my uncles and aunts, that have passed away. My dad was like an agape leader at Capital Christian Center, so we knew, we just knew the church, and the church kind of knew
Yep.
our family, and um, so yeah, it's just like I said, it just kind of was full circle. I had no idea that you were kind of being mentored by him, and that you knew him, and that it just, like I said, it just kind of came all full circle for me. It was pretty neat.
Yeah. You know what's cool, Glenn? Lots of pastors are threatened. Like if a church does well, pastors around them get threatened and they criticize them. Glenn was the one dude that was not like that. Glenn, matter of fact, we played golf one day and Glenn said to me, "Man, what happened up at your church is what we've always dreamed would happen in that area." I just want the guy knew how to celebrate people instead of criticize people. We need more guys like that running around these days.
And I mean, this message is from 1981. He's doing the series on the Ten Commandments, and it's just no holds barred. I mean, he's just preaches directly. He doesn't care if it's offensive or not. He preaches
Yep.
a word, and it's
Yep.
it's it's pretty real.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Glenn was so old, he got it actually from Moses. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Well, Mara, that was super thoughtful. And it's also making me feel old because I feel like tapes. Leslie and I were always doing the tape thing when we were younger with my dad, which was hilarious. But thank you all for being here. We're so excited you guys are here. We're really pumped for this call as we talk about launching things. We're talking about raising resources. We're in the middle of a campaign right now with Bayside that is pretty monumental, and it requires large steps of faith. But it's cool, like even Mara, you talking about like the impact of someone who launched something had in your life. And I think every single person on this call has the ability to launch something that can impact the kingdom of God and therefore impact generations of people after. And it takes a lot of faith and it takes a lot of complication and it can be difficult. But that's what we're going to open up about this call today of what does it look like to launch things? What does it look like to raise resources? What does a campaign look like? What about in ministry and in business? Do these things apply, and how can we learn from each other, and how can we grow together? So Dad, I'll pass it off to you as we get started.
Yes. So sometimes I come into these calls going, I hope this is valuable. This call, I'm coming into this. By the way, Ryan, call me later. Okay. The I'm coming into this call going, this is valuable, and it is dead on, as important as anything you'll ever deal with in ministry, business, or whatever it is you do. And so we're going to have a conversation about lessons you learn from launching something that you want to be great. Because all of you, Bayside, the Granite Bay campus is 32 years old. The other campuses are newer. Matter of fact, we're adding a campus, so that'll be like a day-old campus. So if every time we add a campus, our church gets younger, which is kind of a cool thing. If you go like the Granite Bay campus is 32 years old. Okay. We are getting ready to launch. Like in the last year, we launched the Married Life Ministry. We are getting ready to launch an expanded breakaway program of sports camps for kids every summer. We are getting ready to launch to discern and launch a much better connection program to follow up new people and make sure everybody is connected. We're getting ready to launch a sort of a global the list of things we are launching is off the charts. Okay. And we're 32 years old. And the only way things stay hot, healthy, and growing is by launching things or treating the things you've done before like you're launching it for the first time. For example, most people are going, okay, Easter. All right. We're going to sing some songs. We're going to preach. More people will come. And then it'll drop back down to what it was the next week. Instead of going, Easter, what do we do to launch the best, largest Easter we've ever had? And then what do we do to launch a follow-up to that so all those people keep coming back? So launching is a really big deal. Christy, I want to start with you. You and Joey run a coaching business that pretty much everybody needs. And you launch a 6-week coaching intensive twice a year.
Yeah.
Tell everybody what you're doing now and what it takes to launch it. And first of all, why you're doing it, what are you doing, and what it takes to launch it.
Yeah, so Joey and I are both have backgrounds in being photographers and filmmakers and working in the commercial space and as well as in the wedding space for myself. And we, as photographers and filmmakers, realized very quickly that you can be really great creatively, but be absolutely terrible at business. And so we both grew our businesses to the point where we were like, hey, these are full-time, these are sustainable for us, and we absolutely love it. We saw a lot of other creatives that were struggling in the business area. And so we decided to start helping out creatives. And then we realized, hey, we could actually help probably more people in a deeper way if we really set aside time in our calendar twice a year to really take like a cohort of 35 creatives for 6 weeks and teach them basically the 6 pillars of building a business, like marketing, sales, offers, pricing, everything. So we take 2 times a year, we launch something we call it the 6-week Creative Rise Mastermind. And we take 35 creatives from the brand space and the wedding space, and we walk them through basically a business building experience. And we've been doing that for the last 6 years, and we've had 416 creatives go through it, and they have generated 136 million in the last 6 years, which has been super cool. So we love helping creatives build businesses, and we are currently, tomorrow is the last day of our launch for this one that's happening this year. So we are in the midst of launching. So we are definitely a part of this conversation. And we know the roller coasters of launching over the last 6 years. So we're in the midst of that.
So 6 weeks, you have content laid out for 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once you've shaped what you want to launch, scale of 1 to 10, how much hard work is it to launch it and fill it?
The easy part is building the program. The hard part is filling it and selling it and then getting people to commit. That is by far the hardest thing about launching is the actual launch. The idea and the creation, even though that is legwork and it's the most important what you're selling, the actual product, but the hardest part is launching 100%.
Yep. It's that way with every single thing of Bayside. We have a phrase we use, Leslie, and it's pretty much like, putting on the event is relatively easy. The big challenge is filling the event. The work is filling it. The easy part is doing it. Make sense? And so, CJ, by the way, I'm going to ask CJ, and then I'm going to dive in and talk about some major things we launched, but I've done some research on this out of the Harvard Leadership Center, and there are three characteristics of leaders that tend to have a much better future because they launch things with paying attention to three big areas. Okay, but CJ, what's something you're currently launching?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're launching a lot these days. I mean, AI allows us to kind of get things to market a little bit faster, right? Coding used to take a lot longer, design, things like that. So we're able to launch a lot more. A little example is in my agency, we do a lot of marketing consulting, where I work as like a fractional CMO for a lot of big companies and churches. We notice, like, for example, giving feedback to people is always like a challenging thing. There's this idea of message sent is not always message received, right? So, like, when you're flying an airplane, that's why they go like, "Hey, we're doing this," and someone repeats what that person said, right? Message sent is not always message received. And so we noticed this pain point and we're able to kind of think through, well, how would we solve this problem using new technology and using the stuff that's available here today, where AI could help coach you, right? And go, does your feedback make sense? And can we leverage all the best books on the topic and have it so you're just kind of putting in your thoughts and then the AI is helping you shape it so it's best received by the people you're actually trying to help. Well, guys, that used to take me months and many, many coders and developers to pull together and try to put it together. And we're literally able to pull the prototypes together in, 24 hours, 48 hours these days. And this is kind of the really cool thing, Ray, about today. I think that as leaders get really close to the needs of their people, their guests, or their customers, they should be launching things. They should be launching things that are like solving problems for them. So that's just one of many things that we're kind of working on, but it's a very exciting time for those who want to launch.
Yep, that's cool. So, if you have a way to write this down, if you're driving, don't write it down. Just listen to this when it's done. Ryan, you better get this down. Um, the some of the research I've been doing is when things get launched, it is a ton of work. But there are things you can do to dramatically raise the level of potential success it has in terms of size, impact, influence, all of that kind of stuff. And what I've done is I've taken research from the Harvard Leadership School and then shaped it for launching some of the stuff we launched. And we're in the middle of launching the most important thing we'll do, in my opinion, for about the next 25 to 30 years. And we launched a thing called the Next Campaign. And the first thing we did was it took an entire year to prep it. And so we would like to raise resources for each one of our campuses and build an entire new future. And so what we did was this book, Leslie, how many pages are in this and what's in here?
I have one right on my desk, but I think it's about 80 something pages, somewhere around there. And it basically walks through the story of what we're raising money for, why we're doing it, kind of establishing the problem we're trying to fix. And then it goes into 40 devotionals from Bob Goff on kind of going through the process during the campaign. So we really think we don't do a campaign for a campaign's sake. So much of the money goes out to the world for different projects. But I think the main thing we've been saying is this is actually a spiritual discipleship initiative. So it's not just, hey, what are you going to, give money towards? But it's like, hey, no, this is actually a process. We want you and God to connect and kind of go, what is he speaking to you and asking you? It's like a discipleship program. So that's what the booklet's for.
Yeah, pretty much we said this entire thing, everything we're doing is exactly what Leslie said. It's a biblically based discipleship program getting designed to help all of us live with God honoring values, God honoring vision, and God honoring generosity. And so far we've gotten almost no flack, except somebody told me about some online person which I don't read. Told me about this, and I'm glad that I was told this. This is some online person is like, I've been church hopping and I went to Bayside and they talked about money. And I don't like it when a church talks about money. And this person says this, all I want the church to do is to teach the Bible. And so I told our whole church that in every service last weekend. And I said, first of all, I like this stuff about teaching the Bible. That's who we are. We're the only church I know doing a Bible conference. This is what we do all year long, every weekend. We are a Bible believing, Bible teaching church. However, this person is saying this, all I want the church to do is to teach the Bible. I just don't want the church to ask me to do what the Bible actually says. And why did I do that in the services? Because our people are reading online stuff and I want to vaccinate them so they won't catch that same stupid disease. Make sense? Okay. And so what I want to do is I'll dive into the content part of this thing. Next level leadership launches next level things. So there are 3 marks of next level leadership. I want to grow, increase my leadership ability, increase my influence. And these are going to sound different than this powerful leadership. And the first one is this, higher EQ. Higher EQ. Daniel Goleman wrote a book in the 80s, actually. And the title of the book was EQ. And he basically said it used to be that people thought they'd be successful if they had a high IQ. Okay. Well, what they found out is that a lot of those people aren't successful and not even happy. He said high EQ, emotional intelligence, is more important than just intellectual intelligence. In other words, getting people in the room, stuff like that. And if you're taking notes, write this down. By the way, the reason I wrote Hope Quotient was a conversation with Leslie, sprung into it. But I went, there's IQ, there's EQ. Nobody ever talked about HQ, which is your level of hope. It's your hope quotient. And I actually believe your hope level is more important to success and influence than your EQ. There are a lot of very understanding, compassionate people that get feelings in a room that don't live or lead well. And so I think if somebody has hope, then every other thing gets better. But if you're taking notes, write this down. Leadership high EQ is this. It is understanding how people feel, but also shaping how people feel. And the only way anybody's ever used the word EQ is, oh, we got to listen, notice, and understand how people feel. That's only stage 1. Jimmy Interesting wrote a book on this. We have to shape how people feel. And by the way, the reason this first one is so important is I'll give you an example. We're an executive pastor a long time ago, and really great, just world-class guy, God honoring, high integrity, all of this kind of stuff. But his EQ was a little low, actually very low. And so we said, we want to come out with staff values. And so he just wrote the staff values and put them up all over the building. And it was like integrity. And every single one of these things underneath it said this, integrity. We expect you to live with integrity, all that kind of stuff. Generosity. We expect you. In other words, and I tell you what, our whole staff was kind of in an uproar, feeling like this was top down. And it wasn't like we're all in this together. It's like we up here expect you little peons to live this way. Which means he didn't get how people feel, but certainly didn't. He actually shaped how they felt. They were just mad. Now, so when we rewrote our core values, we wanted to shape how people feel. So we wanted them included. So we started by going to the entire staff and saying, we're all on the same team. What would it look like if we were at our best around here? What if we lived well, loved well, lead well? What would that look like? And we're all writing this together, and the entire staff, and it shaped how people felt, because they felt like this is not being handed down to me. I'm being listened to. Does this make sense? I'm being listened to, all of this kind of stuff. And so we were getting ready to launch this next campaign. Okay. And so how did we shape how people felt about that? Okay. Number one, Number one is this. We started listening to people. And so we actually found a guy, Brian Hopkins, found someone that gave us $250,000 to take 300, Leslie, was it 300? Leslie's been running the campaign, folks.
Yeah.
It was about 300 people. We took them all the way to Napa for free. They got an overnight time. We took our 300 most influential people and we took them away in groups of about 50 or 60 to Napa. And this was months and months and months before we launched anything.
And we had someone actually donate money to fund all of them coming so that they didn't have to pay anything. So
Yeah.
it didn't come out of the campaign, which was awesome.
Yep. And then once we got them out there, Leslie, what did we do with them?
We went through, this was kind of like the, I don't know, ground zero, I guess you could say, of the campaign, because this was about like a year ago that we did this. And we kind of laid out like, hey, here's the problem we're seeing that's not met, whether it's around the world or in our community. And so here's some things that we're sensing God might be doing at Bayside, but we want to get your feedback and what you guys think we could do to reach more people or solve some of these problems. So we really laid out the problem, some of the solutions we thought, and then really just gathered people to pray, talk about things. They gave feedback. Then we broke up per campus and talked about specific projects for each campus. It was probably one of the best things we've ever done. It was awesome.
Yep. And so we got up and we said, we're not going to say a thing about money. This is vision, 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 vision. We didn't say a thing about money. And we then listened to them and laid out 13 potential things. And we said, we got vision for this, all this stuff. And at the end, we let them rank those things in order around their tables. We reoriented those 13 things became 3 things. And it simplified the whole thing. But what happened is shaping how people feel. This turned our 300 most influential couples into insiders and owners. And now it's not our initiative, it's their initiative. Now it's not our campaign, it's their campaign. The ideas are there. So when they hear it, they'll be going, good, I'm glad we got that right. And so
it really did shape a lot of our projects. Like we had in our mind what we thought everyone would be excited about, which they were excited about it. But it was funny, Dad, I don't know if you remember, it was like slay the debt. Both you and I were like, we don't know if anyone gets excited about doing stuff like this, but almost every single person was like, slay the debt is my number one thing. That's what we should go after, all this stuff. It was really cool. So they really did shape a lot of it.
Yeah, I've been pastor in Bayside for 32 years. Not one time have I ever thought about lowering our debt, ever. I pretty much thought everybody thinks like me, which people with low EQ think everybody thinks like them. And so I was going, their number one thing that was voted on all 5 or 6 of these mini retreats was slay the debt. It was number one. I couldn't believe it. And so you read, that's when you get to our campaign, bam, that's it. Matter of fact, here's the campaign page and campaign initiative, compassion first, shape our culture. But number one was slay the debt. We didn't want to put that first because we didn't want to talk about money first because we wanted to pay attention. Here's the people with rising levels of EQ. They don't just get how people feel. That's step one. Step two is though to shape how people feel. And so if you're taking notes on how do you do that, there's different ways to do that. And one is this: before you ever cast a solution, cast the problem and cast it dramatically so people really understand the problem on this. For example, John, do you have access to the video that we show the video we've shown it 2 or 3 times in church, kind of open the campaign. It's about a video. Can you see if you can find that? Yeah. Can we play that on this?
We can.
See if you can find it and let me know when you got it. So this book, we had this, we wanted to do something dramatic because I wanted people to feel like, whoa. we've never done this before. Because if something's new and you've never done it before, now it's got some drama and that makes people feel a little more excited and they wake up and pay attention. And so this book here, it took a long time. Leslie was heroic. Bob Goff let us put 40 devotionals in here, one for every day of the campaign, shaped by Bob Goff. And then they opened this up. They opened this up, and basically the first thing they read was this. If the church doesn't shape the future, the culture will. And Leslie and I were up till the middle of the night writing this one short page because it had to ignite something in people. So it says this: 30 years ago, 26 people gathered in a living room. We prayed that God would raise up a church that would reach kids, teenagers, and the entire community. And as we left that evening, little did we know it was just the beginning of a great move of God. Over the past 3 decades, God has gone far beyond what we could have imagined. That's an understatement. Hundreds of thousands of people meeting Jesus, the Bible taught faithfully, leaders raised up, younger generations trained for ministry, churches planted, and global compassion unleashed at an extraordinary scale. And then I had big letters in the middle of it. And what if the last 30 years is just the beginning? What if it's time to dream some God-honoring dreams again? What if it's time to dream some God-sized dreams again? Is this getting anybody excited? What if God's stirring a bold new vision for the next 30 years to spark a new movement that transforms California and reaches the world with the gospel of Jesus Christ? Why? Because if the church doesn't shape the future, the culture will. And by the way, culture is shaping, and that's a disaster. It won't be easy, but we will, because maybe God meant it when he said, Revelations 21:5, behold, I'm making all things new. And one more thing, what if we're just getting started? Welcome to tomorrow. That ignites the whole thing. Then you never cast any solutions without casting the problem. So you go to the next page in this thing to shape how people feel. We're like, culture is a mess. Would you agree? Culture is a mess and the church needs to wake up. And then we put this: the American church is in decline. Church closures are outpacing new church plants 3-1. Get this: 7,000 churches close every year in America. 7,000. 19 churches today in America will close because 19 churches a day shut down in America. This is not good for the kingdom of God. Okay, second is this: evangelism is on life support in most churches. 99% of pastors say, get this, 99% of pastors, all of them basically, say their church isn't good at outreach. Even growing churches are growing because they're stealing people instead of leading them to Christ. 44% of Baptist churches. Does anybody have a Baptist background? I like Baptists because they like the Bible. 44% of Baptist churches last year didn't even baptize one person in their Baptist churches. Okay. And then the church leader, mental health. So went over all this stuff that's a disaster. And then we went, okay, there's 3 options. And John, do you have that video? Is that a yes?
Yes, here it goes.
Let's see if we can make it play. So this played in church.
John, is your
There's
sound
sound
off?
with this.
Yeah, let me see
Here,
here.
let's take it off. Maybe test it, and then we'll retry it again in a minute.
Yeah.
There is sound on mine. I don't know why it's not coming out.
John, if you want to text it to me, I can try sharing it from my screen as well.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Keep going. We'll pull it
Okay,
up.
we'll keep going. So pull that off the screen, John. Thanks.
Okay.
So basically what we said, they turned to the next page and we pretty much went, there's only 3 options you got: watch the world change, whine about it changing, or work to change it. And then we laid out, and this was pretty cool. And y'all should get this if you're in California or possibly New Hampshire. This here is this is the three great movements that have shaped the last 100 years ago, all started in California. And it looks like when God wants to launch something significant, for some reason, he turns and does it in California first because that influence, i.e., don't move to Tennessee and run out on this place.
By the way, Ray, that book it's linked in the chat along with our executive summary. So
Right.
if you want to check those out, they're in there.
Yep. And then what we did was we stood up in front of everybody and we said, now that book's got devotionals. We introduced that. The next campaign. And then we said is now pull this out. This is an executive summary of every single thing that's in that book. And we said, open this up. And they call us a wham. And we went wham. And on this thing we said, there are 5 categories. This is a compassion first campaign. There are 5 categories: fight sex trafficking and poverty. And there's 14 projects in there all the way down. I'm not going to bore you with reading this whole thing, but this is the word first, FIRST. The categories are fight sex trafficking and poverty, invest in high impact ministries, reach at-risk kids, serve our community, and train the next generation of Christian leaders. And there's 83 projects. I told our church this, I don't know any church in history that has raised and given away and invested $8 million intentionally on 83 things that are outside the walls of their church. I don't know any church in history that's ever done this. And what happened is you could feel the place wake up because all of a sudden, and then all I had to do is describe the first one is this. The Faith Alive Hospital in Nigeria. We're building a $1.5 million children's hospital in Jos, Nigeria, that will see 700,000 kids that probably would be dead otherwise across the next decade in a highly Muslim area. The stories on this kind of thing are dramatic. And so what we did was we pretty much went, all you have to do is describe any one of these things and people start feeling like this is a good thing. Leading with high EQ means I got to get how people feel. By the way, under point 1, a rising EQ level, paying attention to understanding how people feel and shaping how they feel leads to 3 things. It leads to stronger teams and better relationships. It leads to stronger teams and better relationships when you can read the room. Sometimes I've been in a meeting with about 15, 20 people, and nobody knows I'm doing this. I'm tracking the conversation. So I'm going, this person talked, and then it went to this person, then it went to this person, then it went to this person, back to this person, all this kind of stuff. And we had a guy that was talking way too much. Like somebody would talk, he would talk. Somebody else would talk, he would talk. Somebody else would talk, he would talk. So I drew this thing, and I met with this guy afterwards, and I said, I think people are feeling like they're really not going to talk in this room. I said, because look at this. It looks like there's a freeway going from back to you of everything. And he actually responded to that pretty well. So number 1 is read the room. A second one is this. The benefit is it actually helps us do conflict better. When people know that you care about how they feel and you actually feel better, the conflict tends to go better. And third is it creates far more engagement with people. Because when they feel like they're valuable, they're willing to talk. And that's with staff and with people. We had 300 people out in Napa walking out of there going, they're far more engaged because they knew we wanted to hear what they had to say. Another way to just, who preaches or teaches here? Raise your hand. Okay. Whoever preaches or teaches, when you're putting together a message, every point you have to know what do I want them to know, what do I want them to feel, and what do I want them to do? What do I want them to know, feel, and do? Most pastors jump from what I want them to know to what I want them to do. They're not going to do it unless somehow they feel it. It's one of the reasons I told that story about that person that posted that online thing. All I want the church to do is to teach the Bible. Because I wanted our church to go, wait a second, I wanted them to feel the impact of not doing what the Bible says to do. Okay, that makes sense? So that's the first one. By the way, any questions about any of this stuff? Questions, comments? Okay, I'm going to keep going. The second thing out of the Harvard Leadership School was this. Number one was higher EQ, getting how people feel and shaping how they feel. Second one is this humility. Humility. Leaders that are humble. Now, it doesn't mean you don't lead with power. It means I'm humble enough to listen and to listen to other people. And there's three behaviors of leaders with higher levels of humility. Number one is they admit mistakes. They admit mistakes. A really great way to walk into a room is this: you walk in and go, I might be wrong, but, and you can bring something up that way, and it allows authentic conversations to happen. And if you create that culture, then people can come up and tell you, or at least in my case, they can tell me what I need to know. Okay. Leslie does it all the time. She'll come in and go, do you really want to say that way? And it happens all the time. And Leslie, do I listen?
Yes, you do actually.
Does it always change?
Not always, but most of the time.
Exactly right.
No, you
For
do. You do a
example,
good job about that.
for example, Dave is on. Dave has the most astounding church I'm aware of because it's so different. And I got up and said, "Hey, Dave. Sorry about that. Dave is building a ministry on an Indian reservation." And Leslie comes and makes a beeline for me and says, "You can't say that." So what did you tell me to say?
Well, I said you have to say Native American. You can't say Indian, even though he was saying that, but I was like, you should say Native American.
Yes. So, and have I said it since?
No, actually.
I know. The and so,
He says
so
surprised.
I know. I'm shocked you would even admit that. The so humility is a really good thing. And number one is admit mistakes or start a lot of things. I'm not sure I got this right, but like second one is appreciate other people's strengths. Appreciate other people's strengths and call them out, celebrate them, look at them in the room and go, you know what, you're really great at this. What do you think? You're really great at this. What do you think? You're really great at this. What do you think? And tell them how they are. Now you got to be accurate about it. You can't tell them they're really great at singing if they're not. However, everybody, God's given them some strengths. Appreciate those, call those out, affirm people's strengths, talk about that all the time. And then the third characteristic of humility is this: remain teachable. Remain teachable. Even if you're the most experienced person in the room, remain teachable. I'll give you a really good example because it impacted this campaign. I've done 5 capital campaigns, so I've done more capital campaigns than anybody that's on our staff. And so, quote, I should be the expert. And done 5 campaigns, done it pretty much the same way. And I'm a big believer in low goals and then blowing by those low goals. So, like our last campaign, now you have to translate this to Bayside, okay? By the way, the first campaign we ever had, I think our top goal was $4 million, and even that was going to be a miracle. So I'm a big believer in low goals because our last campaign, our top goal was $12 million. And our people pledged 18 point something million dollars, which they should have because that was kind of corresponding to our budget. But I like low goals because then when you get up and announce those, you say, hey, our number one goal was $4 million and you all gave that. And our number four, and then I said, our top goal was $12 million. And I'm here to say, you didn't just give 12, you didn't give 12 million. And they went, you gave more. And it wasn't 13, it wasn't 14, it wasn't 51, 6, so that's how I'm wired. I've told other pastors to do the same thing. And then I come into this campaign and Mark Clark, Brian Hopkins, a whole bunch of other staff is going, we should have a goal of $50 million. And I'm going, first of all, it's impossible. Second is I'm the one that's going to have to stand up front and say, our goal was 50 million and you gave 14 million, way to go. And there goes momentum. I'm going, this is going to be a disaster. So I went, no, there's no way. Then I felt like, wait a second, remain teachable. So what's your rationale for this? And what's this kind of stuff? We actually have a great coach from Generis. And so the more we talked about this, I was like, okay, I pretty much went, all right, I still don't think it's a good idea, but some of the rationale is pretty strong. Let them have their way. I wouldn't recommend this, by the way. I said, so I actually did win one thing. The goal is not 50 million, it is 49.5 million. And so on the bottom of this thing is 49.5 million. We also said our real goal is this: 100% participation. That's our goal. So we don't talk about $50 million much, but we talk about our real goal. Matter of fact, when you open this book, the first page is a picture of Bayside at Golden One Arena, and it's the verse out of Acts that says, all the believers. And we just said, they're bold, they're big on this page. And we said, our goal is this: all the believers, every single one of us dives into this thing. So our goal is 100% participation, but we did this thing. Is that 50 million going to happen? I have no idea, but I'll tell you this a little bit. We are seeing things happen that have, whoa, I got to speed up. Seeing things happen that have never happened. So number one is this: high EQ, not getting and shaping how people feel. Second is humility, which is admitting mistakes, appreciating others people's strengths, and communicating that to them, and remaining teachable. And then the third one is this: psychological safety. Psychological safety. You want people, there's a difference between people feeling safe, because some people's definition of safe is you'll never let me go. Some people's definition of safe is you'll never tell me anything I don't want to hear. I mean, that word safe is a bad word these days. I'm going to try to figure out a better way to phrase this one, but it really is a culture of courage, and a culture where I can share ideas, and a culture where we encourage courage. Okay. One of our campaign themes is this: courage is contagious. Courage is contagious. The card we hand out, top of that card, when people make pledges, is going to say at the top of this: courage is contagious. And by the way, when you develop psychological safety, that means it feels safe to share ideas. It feels safe to consider taking some God honoring risk. Those guys had to feel at least somewhat safe to tell me that our goal needs to be $30 million higher than I want. Okay. And it also feels safe to dream, because if it's not safe to dream, nobody can dream. And here's a bad sign that the room doesn't feel safe is this: nobody's talking. A bad sign is nobody's talking. And so on this stuff. And to wrap this up, I just want to say this: y'all okay, by the way? I know it's like a run-on thing, but this stuff matters. And the first one, the high EQ, getting and shaping how people feel, that leads to better morale. The first one leads to better morale. Okay. The second one, rising levels of humility, admitting mistakes, that leads, and remaining teachable, that actually leads to better decisions. And the third one is psychological safety, a culture of courage. Okay. It's safe to risk, safe to talk, safe to share, safe to dream. That leads to better results. So better morale, better decisions, and better results all stem from this. And just to wrap this up, I want to say this: this has never happened in our church before. When we launched this campaign, took way longer. It took an entire year to plan it, prep it. All of our camps got into it. the largest gift we've ever had as a church is $1 million. And this is the year we lost our main guy that was running all the generosity stuff. So I thought that's going to make it even worse. Okay. We've never had a gift over $1 million. We launched this. Some people spring into action. Got in Brian Hopkins, other people that are great at this. We had a family meet with one of the pastors at one of our churches. But anyway, this has to stay here. Our church doesn't know this yet. And they looked at the pastor and said, "What's our church's debt load?" And the pastor said it's $5 million. It's been that way for like 40 something years. And the couple looked at each other, looked back at him and said, "We got that." He's like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, we will give that." And in 2 weeks later, that couple went in, wrote a check for $5 million and paid off that church. And that church is debt free for the first time in history, so they can deploy way more resources and dream again, other than making building payments. We had a second, get this, we had a second $5 million gift. We've never had anything like this before. Third is we had a $5.5 million gift on top of that. We had somebody else, a $4.5 million gift. This stuff has, like, we're in like God miracle. I'm shocked. I've never even seen this kind of thing happen before. We've had several people. We didn't talk about money out in Napa at all. All we was like getting your ideas, all this kind of stuff. Guy makes an appointment with me, have lunch with this guy the next week. He looks right at me and says, "Man, I'm really excited about this. I'm new to our church, but I want to be all in. My campaign pledge is $1 million. How soon do you need it?" And I said, "Yesterday would be great." I don't know if we'll hit our campaign goal, but I'm here to say this: there are things happening that are exponentially beyond anything I ever dreamt in a culture with a kind of shaky economy. And I think there's a lot of power unleashed with, like, saying, I'm basically going to say, we're not done dreaming and we're not done doing that kind of stuff. I just think there's way better ways to lead people to dreaming where they actually feel better. Because I mean, better morale leads to better decisions, which leads to better results. And these are the ways, I think, to get there. This has been all new learning stuff for me, but reading this stuff out of Harvard, it's been pretty cool. So I hope that's helpful, people.
Awesome. Wait, why don't we end with the video? I can pull that up and see
Hey,
if
Christy, can we end with the video? Leslie, and John, would you describe, by the way, the Thrive Conference is coming up way faster than we think. And so would you describe what's going on? CJ, you can chime in too. So, well, you guys are all insiders, so we're already assuming you're there and bringing people, but go for it.
Yeah, we've got Thrive coming up at the very end of April. So April 29th is Advanced Ministry Training Day. So if you haven't signed up for that in your teams, make sure you do so. We've got John Maxwell with us that day, Carrie Newhoff, a bunch of other people. It's going to be really, really good. So make sure you come. Don't come alone, bring your teams. And then we also have Thrive on April 30th and May 1st. And of course, that will be packed and awesome. We've got Levi Lusko, we've got John and Carrie again, we've got Joe Saxton now coming, Dudley Rutherford, ton of people. It's going to be really fun. We've got Andrew Stanley back for comedy. He's my favorite comedian we've ever had. So it's going to be an awesome year for Thrive. We actually were just booking our vendor. You know, we always have the Ferris wheel. Well, I think we're going to do like a little mini roller coaster thing. So it's going to be a really, really fun time. So make sure you get your tickets.
Yeah.
John actually sent an email, I believe, that has the discount code for 50% off. So you should have that in your email inbox right now. But I'll put the code on the chat so that you can sign up. CJ,
Yeah.
anything you want to add to that?
I was just going to say we have like record number of teams showing up, and I think this is what's cool for those who are kind of leading groups. Your teams get to connect with, church, worship folks, production folks, communication tech folks. It's such an important time right now with so much change happening to have these groups getting connected, knowledge sharing, getting ideas, things like that. So I'm super excited to see that kind of thing happening more and more.
Yep. And Mark, if I could coach you for a minute, this is not self-serving. I just think important because I did this flying people to Chicago, which is insane, because we did it in February. If you can start by getting a bunch of people to thrive from that church as you're getting started, all of a sudden they will be going, whoa, there are things that are possible we have not even ever imagined. And it might help them. So if there's anything we can do to help you with that, let us know. So
I will.
it's
I
a
will.
major move and a launch thing. And then the last thing is if you want some really good news, here's the really good news. Dave Denstead, you're working on what used to be an Indian reservation, which is now a Native American reservation. Um, the Tell everybody what your rent is on the structures you have in the property.
We have a 25-year lease for $1 per year. I volunteered to cover that myself.
That's equal to Dave. That's what Dave's time goes to. Hey everybody, love you all. It's like feeling a bunch of friendly faces. So thanks for being here. I know we've gone over, but we'll see you again in a month. Anything you need in the meantime. By the way, Leslie and Valinsky, CJ, I would like to put the people on this. I think you can put 30 people or 30 on a text string. I'd love to be on a text string with all of us. So if there's a
Yeah.
way to pull that off, if we can just get the names of people on this thing, that could be pretty cool. And then
Yeah.
you'll
Do
see
you want to do it? Do you want to do it this way? If you want to be a part of that kind of group text, just throw your number in the chat right now. Does that work? And then I can take them all down and
yeah, put
put
your name and
together
number in the chat
yeah.
string and we'll does anybody here have a phone that isn't an iPhone? What in the world do you guys think?
We see that hand, Ryan. We see that hand.
Ryan, man. Okay, we just
We'll
put
add Ryan last.
put non-iPhone for Sam and Brian. We have to add you last because the minute we put your name in, boom, stops the
Yeah,
text.
put on there if you have a different phone, I guess.
Just put inferior device. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, the shame is so
okay.
high right now, man.
By the way, this video is pretty cool and it's really short. So let's see if it works. Christy?
Yep.
I don't think there's sound.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't know why Zoom won't let audio come
Okay,
through.
well, we'll show her to thrive.
Send it in the community platform so you can watch it.
There you go.
Christy,
Okay.
could you leave the Zoom open so I can get all these numbers?
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. Hey, love you all. Have a great day. I got to roll to the airport. So
Thank you.
God bless. And Ryan,
Hey,
call
guys,
me
if anybody-
sometime. I want to catch up and get responded. Okay, I've been a little
Yes.
busy. Thanks,
And
man.
this recording will be up in the community platform later today. And so if you don't know how to access that, go to your email. At the bottom of every single email is a link to get into the community if you are unsure about how to do that. And great to see everybody. And we will see you again. We are the second Tuesday of every month for these calls. So we will see you guys in the next month.
All right.
Thanks
God bless
for
everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot. Bye, guys.
Mark, that is quite a move, man. That was